How come there's not a podcast in Eddy County talking about these primary election contest candidates list for 26? It's just amazing to me that somebody's not talking about this. We've got 3 empty spaces here. Well, like Eileen Reardon. Didn't we fire her the last election and replace her with Judge Fingers? And now she's running for a different division? I don't get it. I don't get it. How is she still in there if we fired her? Judge Calicote. I don't know why that name sounds familiar, but that name sounds familiar. That name sounds like it came up in a lawsuit somewhere that didn't go right. Megan Fish. Megan Fish is cool, I guess. I don't have no. I don't. I've had one encounter with Megan Fish, and while she could have done better, I can say that she could have done better. I don't know. Catherine Brown, our state representative for District 55. Here, they're trying to pass a law that'll pay them. How come they weren't getting paid already? If they're representing us well, they're not representing us, they're representing each other. And, that's totally contradictory to their oath. It's the opposite of what they do is opposite. They create barriers for the free public, failing to realize that anything that's contrary to the Constitution is null and void. I don't understand what the hell they're doing. They need to go in there and clean all that crap up. Like allowing the state troopers to use the universal code that they use, that unified code that combines crime with traffic. That's no. They're not civil. They're not the civil police. If they want to be a civil police, they need to look up Title 18 and Title 25 and Title 42 of the U.S. Code and Codes of Federal Regulation. That's what they need to do first. They need to comply with those, because those are in Article 2, Section 3, 11, 13, 17, and 18 of the New Mexico Constitution. They took an oath to uphold, defend, and protect. And they're not doing that. They're not doing that. They perverted it with that stupid book. That stupid book's got books missing in it. It's got chapters missing in it. Makes it incomplete. Read the law on incomplete books. Read the law on the government agents being the civil police. Read that one. Oh boy. Yeah. It's a crime for them to interfere. It's a crime for them to interfere. But they do it anyway. That's how they made that stupid book. And it's a damn nullity. That whole damn book is a nullity. That book that they count on to harass, intimidate, coerce, threaten the free public. Make an unlawful contact in violation of the Fourth Amendment. You got to have a crime. Infractions, violations, whatever you want to call them, they're not law. They're not law, and they're not enforceable. They violate Marbury v. Madison. And I wanted to use the word execution. The prosecution of anybody that allows it, that's taken an oath, that does this, is in violation of 42, 1986. Yeah. They commit more crimes than anybody in the free public. I guarantee you. And nobody's enforcing them. It's time we put our fucking foot down, man. I'm telling you. It's ridiculous. I swear. We got the criminals out there purporting to be the good guys, and there's no good guys purporting to. They're making everybody in the free public the bad guy. Everybody. It doesn't matter who it is. That's amazing. That's amazing. We ought to do something about it, Eddy County. 700 signatures, registered voters, 700 registered signatures. That's all it takes. And we can push, we can get in front of a grand jury, get some of these disclosures, get some of that public record, and submit it to the, and whoever did it, whoever was behind it, all of them, indict them all. Indict them all. I don't care. Indict them all. If they wear a badge, if they wear 2 badges, indict both of them. I don't care who they are. Judges, indict them all. Nobody's above the law. When it comes to a pro se litigant, nobody is above the law, not even the judge. That's why they made Chapter 21, to make sure the judge complied. And when judges fail to comply with their own laws, they are violating Title 18, 241. And nobody's immune from 241, 242. Nobody's immune from 42, 1983, 1985, 1986, 1988. Nobody's immune from those. Those are the actual guardrails for the First, Fourth, Fifth, 14th Amendments. They're really the guardrails for all 28 amendments, to be even the ones they repealed, so that they could pass their bullshit through. That's why they did it. Like I told y'all yesterday, you give them an inch, they take a mile. I'm telling you, we got candidates for all Republicans. We got one Democrat, Gemma Ferguson. We got one Democrat. I wonder what she thinks. I really wonder what she thinks. She's the only Democrat amongst all these Republicans. I wonder how these other Republicans treat her. I wonder how, if it was, all of this was in Bernalillo County, how they would treat the Republicans. Because I'm sure in Bernalillo County, it's just the opposite of this. It's just amazing, man. Jonathan Allen, Republican. Catherine Brown, Republican. Dan Lewis, Republican. Trinidad Malone, Republican. Eileen Reardon is not a Republican. She's a rhino. She's a Democrat in Republican clothing. Don't even think it. Kelly Calico, I don't know. I need to see how they've been voting. That's how you find out. You go back and do some research and see how they've been voting. You see how they rule. See what kind of judgments they make. And then you can tell what kind of person they are. You can tell. You can tell how liberal they are. You can tell how progressive they are. You can tell how conservative they are. And you can tell. You don't have to be a genius. I mean, you probably have to have a score better than those in Minnesota, above 70, but, 90's good, 100's good. 140 is way better. The county clerk, Kara Cook. Now, I had a back and forth with Kara Cook. I don't know if she was just uninformed or if she's just one of those that rebels against her own constituents. Listen to what I just said. I don't know if Kara Cook is just one of those that just rebels against her own constituents. She's not listening to her own constituents. I guarantee you. I'm an independent. You'll never see an independent on here. I would never be a member of a club that would have me as a member of that club. I'm just saying, because I'm sure these people, look at Henry Castañeda. Didn't they kick him off of the bench? And then he tried to run for the school board and failed there, and now he's trying to run as county commissioner in District 1? Really? Really? That's crazy, man. And they never put on here who is running against them. You ever notice that? Who's running against them? No, they don't never. Oh, they don't want you to vote. They don't want you to know who's on the other side. The other side might be another Republican that's more conservative than this. For instance, Eileen Reardon in the 5th Judicial District Division 5. That woman has no business in the courthouse. That's why we kicked her out last time. And here she is again coming up. Get the hell out of here, man. You know, I can pull her name up. I can pull her name up when she did something to a girl named Nancy. Yeah, you know, that kind of trespass, destruction of private property, I don't care what it was. The Fourth Amendment applies and she swore to uphold it. Not for her, but for her constituents. And she didn't do that. And I've heard she's done that multiple times. But yeah, no, you give the lady a chance to walk into her own trap. That's what you do. You submit some papers and let that lady walk into her own trap. She can't comply with the law. She damn sure doesn't have no business on the bench. That's my opinion, okay? And I'm telling you, if you violated somebody's rights, and I don't care who they were, if you've ever had a defendant before you without representation, true actual representation for that defendant, and y'all had a discussion, you violated codes of judicial conduct. Y'all are attacking that man without representation. That's not cool. That is not cool. There ought to be somebody there, an advocate for the public in every courtroom, every time the judge is coming before somebody. Every time. It doesn't matter who it is. And that's not what's going on. They'll pull that highway patrol in there in front of that judge and have that defendant in there by themselves to get them on some bullshit Zoom call. Man, that ain't time, place, and manner. Hell, if you had to arrest them, you couldn't get them because they're on TV. I'm just saying, you know, that is not proper place and manner. It's not. Zoom TV Zoom court is not court. That's kangaroo. That's kangaroo shit like a motherfucker, man. I don't give a damn who you are. That's kangaroo. That's an association. That's a, you know, that's a king's court. That's a king's court. It's not a judicial court. You know, Article 2, Section 3 gives everybody that's not being charged with a crime for the jury to be the finder of facts and not the judge. It's just amazing that this kind of activity takes place in courtrooms all over the country. It does, and they presume that this process was legal. It's not legal. It's not. They can make up all these other rules and all these other rules and all these other rules to try to make you think it's legal. It's not legal. Rules, regulations, anything like that. The legislature can write it all up, send it down to the Senate. The Senate can pass it. The governor and the president can sign it. But if anywhere in there it conflicts with the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, it's a nullity. Enforcing it is a crime. That's why the preemption doctrine was created. It came from the Supremacy Clause. And it was pretty clear, when the government does something. When the government does something, if that something conflicts with constitutional civil liberties in any minute little way, it becomes a crime. The government is committing a crime. And it carries 2 to 10 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. And if blood is drawn, even the death penalty can be applied. It says if death occurs that, injury. Injury is grounds for relief. And the maximum punishment for relief of that injury is death. Y'all can dance around all the little corners you want to. You can dance all the way around them, but none of your rules supersede my rights. None. None of your rules. You can't apply any of your rules to me. Ever. It's a goddamn shame that this has been going on so long and nobody's done nothing about it. We elect these idiots right here, and none of them. I'll give you $100 if you can bring one of them to me and tell me that we'll go through a little bit of back and forth with them. So we'll see. You know, I got books. I read them all the time. You know, that's what makes it easy to just cut rule right out. Doesn't apply. Rules are not law. Not even court procedural rules are not law. Because you can circumvent all of the courts, but the Supreme Court cannot reject you. That's right. And I've got Scott Harris's name in my house, the Supreme Court Justice. I have a right to redress. You think that my right to redress hasn't been violated? Oh, of course it has. Of course it has. And I've got the judges' names that did it. That's the good part. And the people that were involved in the judiciary, Nancy Long, who's been covering for these corrupt government officials for God only knows how long. And she's an officer of the court that swore to uphold, defend, and protect and preserve the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the state of New Mexico, the Criminal Code, Chapter 13 of the New Mexico Criminal Code, Article 2, Section 3, 11, 17, and 18, 13 of the New Mexico Constitution. Oh my God. They're just, you know, if it wasn't just me and I knew somebody that could write a legal document to present to the court, you know, the court would just throw it under the table. Oh, we never saw it. Oh, it must have got lost. You know, that kind of crap right there is illegal. It's a crime. It's a crime. You can read it. It's in New Mexico Codes of Judicial Conduct 101, 204, 206, and 209. And I'm sure it's in all three of the other 5 canons. They say there's only 5 canons. There's really 7. There's 7 cardinal canons for judges. Cardinal canons for judges. And they took an oath to uphold them, and they've miserably failed, especially the Chief Justices. All of them, including John Roberts. If John Roberts had been doing his job over there in Washington, D.C., if he'd been doing his job, Scott Harris's name wouldn't be in my house. That's a fact. Because Scott Harris would have accepted my documents as a pro se litigant with wide latitude. And pro se litigant standards of review. 7 cardinal canons. The 1st, the 5th, and the 14th Amendments of the United States Constitution and the Declaration of Washington, D.C. Because the Virginia Constitution forbids what Scott Harris did. The New Mexico Constitution forbids what Scott Harris did. U.S. Code makes it a crime what Scott Harris did in 18 and 42. Codes of federal regulation make it a crime for what Scott did. 11-448. I'm going to presume that a violation of 18-141-41 was a violation too, which also is a crime. It's a pattern of practice. They've been doing it for a minute. Like I said, John Roberts failed at his job as Chief Justice to make sure that a pro se litigant's documents got to his bench, regardless of all your rules. The clerk accepted the documents. They were deemed filed. Your own rules. Biffle v. Morton. That is a crime, Justice Roberts. And it starts right here. It starts right here in my municipality. You ought to hear the flares go off behind my house and in front, across the street, across the road from my house. You ought to hear the oil gas flares go off. They ought to preserve that gas, compress it somewhere, and save it for the neighborhood. And just give the neighborhood free gas for what the hell they did. Just, yeah, that's ridiculous. It ain't right. It's just not right. These courts are failing. These clerks, and I don't blame our local clerks. Our local clerks are pretty cool. I've had a little, like I said, I had a little deal with Kara Cook, but you know, she eventually, once you give them the precedence, boy, it's hard to deny. You know, the damage had already been done. Just because you read the precedents and corrected it doesn't mean that the damage wasn't already done. That's what I'm talking about, you guys. We need to deal with this crap. Get on with it, Eddy County. Get a hold of me. Here I am.